I'm Corey Evan. Coming up in the Weekender. ISIS claims that an airstrike took out a U.S. hostage, but the White House says there's no evidence to confirm that. Brian Williams' account of the Iraq War is now coming under heavy scrutiny. An Ohio man goes on a bender after his pet pig eats his marijuana. A Winnipeg, Canada woman is happy with the results of a Supreme Court ruling in our continuing battle against global socialism. We look at the classifieds, including some that will have you in grief. A fellow Game Show geek makes his 4th game show appearance in our Game Show News Minute. And some tips for those of you who are going on a trip this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, grab yourselves a drink and sit back. The SHR Weekender starts now.
Making sense of the week's news and the most of your weekend. From Southern California, this is the SHR Weekender with Corey Evans.
So refreshing to have you with us for the SHR Weekender on this Saturday, February 7th, 2015. Let's get right into it, starting with this from the BBC. White House officials say they have not seen any evidence to confirm reports by the ISIS militant group that an airstrike killed a U.S. hostage. The group says a female hostage, Kayla Jean Mueller, was killed when Jordanian jets bombed a house on the outskirts of their Syrian stronghold, Raqqa. No proof has been offered other than a photo of a ruined building. Jordan, which carried out airstrikes on ISIS targets in Syria on Thursday, dismissed the report as propaganda. A graduate of Northern Arizona University, Ms. Mueller first came to the Turkish-Syrian border in 2012 to work with refugees. She was abducted while working in Aleppo, Syria the following year. According to ISIS, she was killed in the building where she was being held. It didn't provide images of a body. If her death is confirmed, she would be the 4th American to die while being held by ISIS. Journalists James Foley and Stephen Sotloff and aid worker Peter Kassig were beheaded by the group. A spokeswoman for U.S. President Barack Obama's National Security Council said the U.S. was deeply concerned by the reports, but added that officials had seen no evidence to corroborate the IS report. Jordan has increased its participation in the bombing of the militant stronghold since one of its pilots was shown being burned to death by ISIS militants, and officials in Jordan insist they will keep up the pressure. Claiming the coalition killed Miss Mueller could also provide a convenient solution to ISIS's problem of what to do with a female hostage, one they might not want to be shown killing in the same barbaric way as they have others. Which is quite ironic because, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, in this bit of the world, they do tend to follow Sharia law quite a lot, which only tends to favor the men. Stay with us here at SHR Media. We will bring you the latest updates on this and other stories related to the ISIS militants as they become available. Next up, police have found 60 bodies in an abandoned crematorium in the Mexican resort of Acapulco, officials say. Local media report that neighbors became suspicious of the smell late on Thursday and called police. The bodies of women, men, and children were found perfectly embalmed, quote-unquote, and ready for cremation, officials said. Police have opened an investigation into crimes involving the desecration of bodies and violating burial and exhumation regulations. The crematorium shut a year ago due to bankruptcy and failure to pay debts to creditors, the prosecutor's office said on Friday. Quote, with the failure to cremate the cadavers, federal, state, and municipal health laws were broken, unquote. Officials said that they believed the bodies had been prepared for cremation and then left to decompose after the business closed. Graphic photos of the crematorium show piles of bodies wrapped in dirty sheets on the floor of the building. Local media report that lime had been used over the bodies to try to disguise the smell. Police have asked local funeral homes to get in touch with them if they had sent any bodies for cremation in the last 2 years. Some relatives have asked police to analyze the ashes given to them by the crematorium. Chief Prosecutor Miguel Angel Godinez told Radio Formula that some documents had been found in the property that, quote, will allow us to conduct various lines of investigation, unquote. He added that experts were seeking to determine how long the bodies had been left in the building. The crematorium is in the state of Guerrero, 124 miles from the town of Iguala, where 43 students went missing in September. Coming back to the U.S., this from Fox News. NBC News has assigned the head of its own investigative unit to look into statements made by anchor Brian Williams about his reporting in Iraq a dozen years ago. A source at the network who requested anonymity because the person's not authorized to speak on personnel matters confirmed the investigation on Friday. Williams has apologized for falsely saying on the air that he was in a helicopter hit by a rocket-propelled grenade while in Iraq in '03. Richard Esposito, a former editor at the New York Daily News, now at NBC, will head the investigation. The incident has ballooned into a full-blown crisis for NBC and Williams, whose nightly news is the top-rated evening news program. In 2003, Williams described how he was traveling in a group of helicopters forced down in the Iraq desert. On the ground, Williams said he learned the Chinook in front of him, quote, had almost been blown out of the sky. He showed a photo of the aircraft with a gash from a rocket-propelled grenade. In an 2008 blog post, Williams said that his helicopter had come under fire from what appeared to be Iraqi farmers with rocket-propelled grenade. He said a helicopter in front of his had been hit. Then, in a 2013 appearance on David Letterman's Late Show, Williams said that 2 of the 4 helicopters he was traveling with had been hit by ground fire, quote, including the one I was in, unquote. On Wednesday, Williams recanted that story, claiming that he was flying in a Chinook helicopter behind the formation that took fire. However, on Thursday, the military newspaper Stars and Stripes, which broke the story, reported that Williams was actually flying with a different helicopter company altogether in a different direction and linked to the attack unit only by radio. Well, Mr. Williams, you got some explaining to do, my friend. Yes, sir. And of course, we will keep you updated on what becomes of Brian Williams and his career at NBC. I can't say anything right now, but it's not looking too good for Brian. But this story right here looks even worse. From the BBC, the family of a 6-year-old U.S. boy staged his mock kidnapping because they thought he was too nice to strangers, Missouri police say. The boy's aunt, Denise Krautil, allegedly asked a colleague, Nathan Thiroved, to help scare her nephew. The boy was lured into a car, taken to a basement, and told he could be sold into sex slavery, police said. Miss Krautil, Mr. Thiroved, and the boy's mother and grandmother, who allegedly also took part, were arrested. Quote, family members told investigators their primary intent was to educate the victim and felt they did nothing wrong, a statement from the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office said. Police said Mr. Thiroved lured the 6-year-old into his vehicle after he left a school bus in Troy, Missouri. The man told the boy he would never see his mommy again and would be nailed to the wall of a shed. Mr. Thiroved allegedly showed the boy a handgun as he was crying, threatening him. He then covered the boy's head with a jacket, bound his hands and feet, and brought him into his own basement. In the basement, Miss Krautil allegedly took off her nephew's pants and told him he could be sold into sex slavery. Eventually, he was unbound and given a lecture about strangers, police said. The boy's school called Child Protective Services when he told them what had happened. Mr. Thiroved, Miss Krautil, and his grandmother Rose Brewer have been charged with kidnapping, restraint, as well as abuse and neglect of a child. His mother, Elizabeth Hupp, has been charged with kidnapping and abuse and neglect. This is a case of teaching a kid a lesson that I think not only went too far, but actually went like 1,000 miles too far. I mean, these days we've got YouTube for that sort of thing. Good grief! And if you don't believe me, I'll go ahead and post this story up on our Facebook page for you. Facebook.com/SHR Weekender, because this is just one of those examples of disgusting parenting. And for those of you who have been wondering when Radio Shack is going to go under, well, they're on their way. This coming to us from the AP, a diminished Radio Shack will live on, but its future may lie with Sprint. Struggling consumer electronics chain Radio Shack, founded nearly a century ago, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection late Thursday. It plans to sell up to 2,400 stores to its largest shareholder, Standard General, and has filed a motion to proceed with closing the remainder of its 4,000 U.S. stores. Wireless carrier Sprint has a deal with Standard General to open mini-shops in as many as 1,700 of the Radio Shack stores Standard General is buying. Sprint would occupy about a third of the retail space in each Radio Shack location, and Sprint employees would sell mobile devices and plans. But other parties could bid for Radio Shack stores in the bankruptcy process. The Fort Worth, Texas company is also having discussions to sell all of its remaining assets overseas. The company, which has not turned a profit since 2011, employs about 27,500 people worldwide according to its last annual report filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. It's seeking court approval to keep paying employees and honor customer programs and keep operating as it restructures. Radio Shack said Thursday that it also has more than 1,000 dealer franchise stores in 25 countries, stores operated by its Mexican subsidiary, and operations in Asia, which are not included in the Chapter 11 filing. It wants to sell them. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go around the world and see who's botched their crimes this time in Crime and Pinheads. As you know, this is the part of the show where I tell you about criminals who did something so stupid in committing their crimes that was only a matter of time before they got busted. Starting with this one from the Huffington Post. So much for living high on the hog. An Ohio man allegedly went on a bender after his pet pig ate a stash of pot. On Sunday, deputies in Washington County, Ohio, arrested Chad Spohn on disorderly conduct charges that started after he discovered Millie, his beloved pet, had gobbled up his marijuana, the smoking gun reports. Deputies arrived at Spohn's house after he called 911 several times and said he was having suicidal thoughts. During one call, he said he was holding a butcher's knife to his own throat, according to the police report. Spohn's wife, Heather, told officers that her husband was already depressed because of their pending divorce before discovering the pig got into his cannabis. She said Spohn then downed an entire bottle of Everclear, a strong alcohol. His wife told officers that Spohn gets very upset when he doesn't have marijuana, the Daily Caller reports. And in order to arrest him, officers had to subdue Spohn with a taser. Spohn is out of custody now, but Millie may not be in his life much longer, according to a Facebook post which he posted 2 days before his arrest, which I will also post on our Facebook page for you to check out. Next up from Philly.com, a burglar who broke into a check-cashing business in Kensington may have thought he was in the money when he found $3,000 and a shotgun, but the cash he stole was actually counterfeit, police said, proving that crime does not pay. Now authorities are asking the public's help in identifying the brilliant burglar. According to police, the suspect broke into Bob's check cashing on Kensington Avenue near Somerset Street around 3:30 a.m. Monday. He can be seen on surveillance footage entering the business through a hole in the ceiling of a utility closet. Once inside, the burglar stole a 12-gauge shotgun and $3,000 in counterfeit dollars that had been collected by Bob during his time in the check cashing business. I'm sorry, but this is one where I have to play the losing horns. I mean, you're brilliant, man. You should know that they give a check for a check, or in this case, a fake for a fake. That was for you, sir. And, I have a fecal fiasco out of Australia. This coming to us from the Daily Mail. There are new contenders for the dumbest criminals in the world after a group of young men dragged stolen, flaming porta-potties behind their car and seemed surprised by the nauseating stench that ensued. The less-than-smooth criminals then further proved their ignorance by incriminating themselves, catching the attention of police by posting footage of their fecal fiasco on Facebook. The young men attached chains to 2 porta-potties during the dead of the night and then took off at great speed, with the portable toilets banging into each other and spilling waste all over the road. Sparks flew through the air as the 2 dunnies caught fire, swinging on both sides of the road as the idiots speed through the night. The hooligans then can be heard guffawing and retching as they speed through the Northern Territory, overcome by the putrid stench as the container of waste burned up. The flaming toilets tumbled, knocked over street signs, and upended any objects which came in their path. Proving no lesson had been learnt, the Territorians tried again, stealing another porta-potty.
Oh, fuck's sake!
Northern Territory's Police Duty Superintendent Bob Harrison said he's well aware of the crime thanks to the criminals conveniently uploading footage of their stupid stunt, according to NT News. He condemns their deplorable actions and cannot believe that the people responsible would be so stupid to not only engage in the stunt, but make the incriminating footage public. Indeed, sir. Thank you for landing yourselves on today's Crime and Pinheads list, guys. You've really done your country proud. And on that note, it's time to take a break. When we come back, doctor-assisted suicide. A Winnipeg woman is happy with the Supreme Court's ruling on it. I take a look at what's catching people's eyes in the classifieds. And a fellow game show geek makes his way to the Wheel of Fortune. That's all coming up in the SHR Weekender. Take 2 minutes, go get a cookie, and come on back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
You're listening to the SHR Weekender on shrmedia.com. Once again, here's Corey.
And welcome back to the SHR Weekender. I'm Corey Evan, and now it's time to go into the latest in our continuing battle against global socialism. Some Manitobans are applauding the Supreme Court of Canada's ruling regarding doctor-assisted suicide, including family members of Susan Griffiths, who traveled to Switzerland in 2013 to take advantage of that country's assisted suicide laws. This from CBC News. The country's top court ruled unanimously on Friday that competent adults with grievous and irremediable medical conditions have the right to ask a doctor to help them die. The ban on doctor-assisted suicide will be struck down in 12 months unless federal and provincial governments amend legislation to respond to the ruling. Next up, according to NOLA.com, Harvard University has banned, quote, sexual or romantic relationships between faculty and undergraduates, tightening its previous policy of prohibiting relationships with one's students, according to Bloomberg News. The move comes at a time when Harvard, like 90 other campuses around the country, is being investigated by the U.S. Education Department for its response to sexual assault reports. Other campuses, including Yale, have also banned sexual relationships between professors and undergrads in recent years, Bloomberg reports, but not everyone is in favor. A spokesperson for the American Association of University Professors in Washington told the website, quote, these relationships are going to occur on campus and you must put as many ethical checks on them as possible, but a blanket prohibition doesn't seem appropriate, unquote. So, when will the ghost of Dr. Kevorkian stop haunting us? When will teachers and students start drawing the line? And who in the world needs half an hour just to make a cheese pizza? Stay tuned for developments in our continuing battle against global socialism. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first weekend of the month. Everybody's on the job boards trying to find a job these days, so let's go to the classifieds. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I look at everything. Local newspapers, Craigslist, job boards, because if you're bored, get a job! Though I'm not sure you want this first job. Waitress needed. Must be 18 years old, with 20 years experience. Apply in person, Carnation Restaurant. Yeah, now I know where I will not be going for breakfast. Oh, I love this one. Looking for 15 energetic individuals to replace 15 lazy people. Entry-level positions, no experience required, paid weekly. So if 15 of you want to get together and go take those jobs, have at it. Prime opportunity. Oh, I love the headline on this one from the San Diego Craigslist. Earn great money helping K-12 students see the world. You mean there's bad money? But it gets even more interesting. Contact schools by telephone in order to offer trip proposals is among the duties and responsibilities. We can usually beat pre-packaged dull tours with custom exciting trips. Really now? I'd like to see you guys prove it. Gotta love the penny savers. You can gather your friends just by posting something in the penny saver, and they'll come a-running no matter what you advertise. Like this one, calling out to the gentlemen and ladies. Join us for comfort and some joy. We are all in grief. We need you. Maybe you need us. Why so sad? Can you clarify for us, please? That would help me out big time. Thank you. Now, even today, there are some people who are looking for general contractors, for kitchen remodeling, drywall, electrical, that sort of stuff that keeps an old house ticking. Though I'm not sure I would go with someone with a name like this. DIM Construction. D-I-M. I'd love to know what DIM stands for, guys. Well, at least it's got their license number right here so I can look them up and see what it means, but I'm not holding my breath. As you know, a lot of folks are going back to school, and you need a place to sleep that's close enough to campus and close enough to your part-time job. Now, here's an ad that has me a little bit concerned. Free rent in exchange for elderly woman. What does that even mean? Can someone enlighten me on that? Because I'm clueless on this one. Good grief! And while you're going to school, you'll need a car. Here's a 1990 Acura Integra for $350 in East Lancaster in Southern California near Los Angeles. But here's the thing, it's totaled. I mean, it's got a front end, but it doesn't have any of the paneling or a bumper. It looks like it's properly totaled. And inside the cabin, it's ruined! This one I'm definitely posting up on the Facebook page for you to look at, facebook.com/SHR Weekender. And Jay, to wrap it up with one from Jay Leno. And Jay, this is one that you would be interested in. A bobblehead of Jay Leno for $149. Yes, Jay, for you specifically, it's a stress-relieving toy.
Gee, I wonder if this is made in China.
I'm, of course, talking about Jason Miller in San Diego, who's listening to this and thinking, I'm not spending that kind of money. But I bet you someone else will. And that's the thing about these classifieds. People are drawn in by them. They see something for sale or that they want, they'll jump on it. Someone will. Right, those are your classifieds for the month of February. If you see an amazingly funny classified, hit print screen, Command Shift 4, or take a picture of it and send it to me at facebook.com/SHR Weekender. And it might appear here next month. And on that note, we go to break. When we come back, Chad Mosher makes his appearance on Wheel of Fortune in the Game Show News Minute. And a tip for those of you who are going on vacation. We'll be right back.
Don't click away. The SHR Weekender will be right back.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media.
I'm Corey Evan, the Game Show Geek. It's Saturday, February 7th, 2015. Here's your Game Show News Minute. Flint, Michigan resident Chad Mosher has appeared on his share of game shows, but on Tuesday, Mosher appeared on the storied game show Wheel of Fortune. He's been infatuated with game shows since he was a child, watching them with his mother, grandmother, and aunt. But Wheel of Fortune was the gateway. It was the first show he watched when his mother sat him in front of a TV as a 1-year-old while she was cooking. Great work! Now I know exactly how to get my kids hooked on game shows. Will the Potty Parade Porta Potties of MTV's brand new broke-ass game show go down in game show history? Probably not, but still the latest contestant in the game show universe is pretty hilarious. It ain't no Jeopardy! In this show you need to be able to determine whether a quote was said by Jaden Smith or Stephen Hawking, or answer trivia questions asked by a midget hiding under co-host Derek Gaines' jacket. It's not your grandma's kind of game show, but of course it comes to us from MTV. Fremantle Media North America is looking to get new life out of old assets with the launch of Buzzer TV, a digital multicast channel devoted to vintage game shows. The Fox O&O stations have picked up the channel for a summer debut in 17 top markets. The deal was brokered for Fremantle Media by distributor Debmar Mercury. Over 40,000 episodes through its ownership of Goods and Todman's archive are set to finally see the light of day again, and I can hardly wait. But in the meantime, I'm Corey Evans saying that's your Game Show News Minute. Have a nice day. I've been wondering when all of those old game shows from the olden days would finally see the light of day again. As a game show geek, that really makes me happy to hear that this sort of channel is launching. If you know someone who's into game shows, tell them about that channel. I don't want it canceled due to low ratings. It gets annoying hearing of game shows getting canceled for ratings. Okay? Okay. And on that note, it's time to move to your tip of the week, which involves vacationing. Now, a lot of people like to go on trips every now and again, but if money's tight on your end of things, you might want to consider a daycation. Look around your town and look for those not-so-well-known spots, like the local museum that not everyone talks about, but when you go inside, is heck cool. Or if you live close enough to the ski resorts, make a day of it, just like carpool up to Big Bear and back. As a matter of fact, go online and research what your city or town has to offer. Look for those obscure deals, the ones that not everyone talks about. Those are certainly the mini trips that you and your family will love talking about. Impress your friends. You don't have to go far to have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, I live in Riverside County and have almost instant access to Big Bear. So that's what me and my friends are doing. We're going up to Big Bear this weekend, and we are going snow tubing. We're just going to go up, snow tube, and then when the sun sets, we'll go get dinner, and we'll all come back home. Saves you money on hotel right there. But if you must do a hotel, look for the best price in town. But those mom and pop places, like the Motel Sticks, those should be lowest on the totem pole for safety concerns. If you do that. Just make it a day and you'll save a lot of money right there. You don't have to spend a lot to have a great trip. But no matter what you do with the weekend, make it a great one. I'm Corey Evan. This has been the SHR Weekender for this Saturday, February 7th, 2015. Follow us on Facebook.com/SHR Weekender or tweet us at SHR Newsdesk. For all of us here at SHR Media, have a great weekend or not. The choice is yours.
Corey will be back next weekend on the SHR Weekender. For more information on today's program, go to shrmedia.com. Thank you for listening.